drifting tender, comrade, heroes ride. Her gallant severed away with the tide. The storm head gathers, comrade, heroes ride. Illusions scattered away with the tide. Why do weathered warriors wander their way where the wanting wonders wait? Hark the herald's anchors away. Here there happens mine escape. Freedom forgone, sinking abyss, comets crumble, Phoebus fades under cosmic clamor decay. Hides a path untaken. Ancient echoes come right, heroes ride. In deafening silence, away with tide. A wave of hazard, come right, heroes ride. All in windward, away with the tide. Stellar stories, starward bestrewn, slipping sidewise, see their snakes. Twixt the leaves you'll find not a miss. Missing autumn crossing fades, freedom surging, shifting ahead. Comets dancing in her way to the cosmic clarions accord along the path not taken. Tread on the road that is borrowed design. Through the sun of their signs do they seek tomorrow? Tonight, witness them as the end shall begin. What was final, their lives falling back, further back, hither back to burn, to primal. Come ride, heroes ride, ride with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, to my final escape. Come ride, heroes ride, ride with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, to my final escape. Whispers falling silently drift on the wind, but I hear our journey now, a memory fading from sight. But I see you, unbroken promises we made so long ago. Your spoken record for a river of tears, flowing, winding to eternal sea, and yet our hope remains, guiding, lighting the way. No time for mourning, rises on a land reborn from the ashes. 'Neath the heavens to sunset, blood red skies, tranquil laughter, the storm. Blessed shadow turn hearts engraved. In the dark you will not stray. Forge ahead till the end we pray. Tales of loss and fire of faith. Every word on our hearts engraved. In the dark you will not stray. Forge ahead till the end we pray. The sigh of the shifting sea, the kiss of the salt sweet breeze, the white of her silken dress stained in red, her memory fading fast, her mother sits, eyes downcast, a torn uniform in hand, farewells unsaid. That once a certainty, lost in grief, a daughter's desperate cries, unheard pleas, forsaken, beaten, tried, on her knees. A prayer passes from her lips into her soul, the goddess whispers. Dark, the heart seek of equilibrium. With balance will your worried parts so still this broken melody, and there will shoulder thee one last step, only leaving an empty heart down by the sea, empty heart down by the sea. Shintamani, Shintamani, Shintamani. There's nothing left, now close my eyes for one last time and say goodbye. Lying naked while the snow falls all around me, drifting closer to the edge, but she won't have me. Wake up and sweat, full of regret, try to forget these memories lurking beneath, lost in a dream. Unchosen paths, a broken past, forspoken wrath, the pain won't cease, I'll find no peace, no sweet release. Fragile creatures, we are taught to fear the reaper, ever running, we are dead before we meet her. These voices telling me let it go. I try and try, but can't say no. This endless nightmare has just begun. My heart is dragging me down into oblivion. The endless lies I've cast aside, locked them in ice. Steel is my soul, my blood grown cold. voice from the past screaming, there is no end. A slave to my fate, ever doomed to repeat this again and again and again and again and again. Falling too fast, but the fall will not break me. A voice from the past that goes loud like a drum. No more goodbyes, I am tired of waiting. Now open my eyes, when I'm tired of waiting. Now open my eyes. Here I come. Soul laid bare, foul and fair. Every secret, every odyssey. Answers unfold, one with the truth, the divine. By my guiding hand, perfect understand. I won't be denied. You are mine, you are blind, a fool till the end. Cast down for a more, I create, manipulate. You're kind in my image, my chosen ones. For you the time has come, the sun is setting. Say goodnight. With each bite does your sanity die. Sucking the life out, letting the dark inside. Say a prayer as the light leaves your eyes. So scream all you like, your gods can't hear you. Say goodnight to the weakness that you hide behind. Believing the lies, feeding the fear inside. Never once were you truly alive. So scream all you like, no one can hear you. Pride, greed, and not thrive. These seeds rotten and reaping the fruits of your nihilistic pride. Come take a bite. Pride, please resist me no more. Twisted and broken, farewells unspoken. Journey's end, as I ascend. Pandemonium. Here I rise, claim my prize. Every moment, every sacrifice. In Anabasios, I am the truth, the divine. By my guiding hand, perfected we stand. I won't be denied. You are mine, you are blind, a fool till the end. Cast down forevermore. I create, manipulate. You're kind in my image, my chosen ones. For you the time has come, the sun is setting. Say goodnight. With each bite does your sanity die. Sucking the life out, letting the dark inside. Say a prayer as the light leaves your eyes. So scream all you like, your gods can't hear you. Say goodnight to the weakness that you hide behind. Believing the lies, feeding the fear inside. Never once were you truly alive. So scream all you like, no one can. Say goodnight. Say goodnight. Please, savage nobles, touch your face. Say goodnight, you realize, follow me. Say goodnight, say the words, follow me. Say goodnight, follow me. Say goodnight.
Shrieks knife through the deep. Natureless creatures perverted and evil. From foulness rise a vermin tide. Teeth bared, clawing the air. Sing like to sing you the wrath. Do not fear you in slaughter's king. The piper weeps, just wax mark on your back. Here in the valley, your death casts no shadow. Sin's fate comes from the deep. Lay bare, take clean, red deep in the bones that feed the menagerie. Burns hot, burns brief, follow till there's nothing left but ash. Dark horizons, white seas, pandemonium from the border. what's inside you, the sickness that drives you. Beating black, demoniac, pride breeding, blood thrive these seeds. Rotten and reeking the fruits of your making. Testify, come take a bite. Bite down, blood in the cut, choking on life as the light slowly swallow, fade away. Or don't defray, they bear your mind till it shatters just like glass. Lay bare in clean red, deep in the bones that feed your insanity. Unwind, unfold your mind till it shatters just like glass. Dark horizons, boiling seas, pandemonium from the borders, chaos bleeds. Savage nobles count your feet. Pandemonium, here be lions, follow me. Come follow me to pandemonium. Abandon all hope in pandemonium. Pandemonium. Lay bare in clean red, deep in the bones that feed the menagerie. Burns hot, burns breathe for hope till there's nothing left but ash. Dark horizons, boiling seas, pandemonium. Here be lions, follow me. Horizons, pandemonium. Abandon all hope in pandemonium. Pandemonium.
Ein brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tongued echoes tumbling through time. Three stories fit and cast aside. For knowing no end in sight. One brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tongued echoes tumbling through time. Three stories fit and cast aside. For knowing no end in sight.
All our splendor beat black in silence. Our surrender, a song reverie. Slowly drifting down into twilight. Left to sifting through fading memories. Know our places for what is wordless. Evanescent, this writing on the wall. Rather stay this descent to madness. Come and save us, catch us before we fall. Riding home, riding home, riding home. Don't lose hope. Like broken angels, wingless, cast from heaven's gates. We only fly when falling, falling far from grace. Our lives a message in a bottle cast to sea. Quick to their ends, our candles burn until we're free. In the rain, to line and darkness fade. Yes, time circles endlessly. All things change, drawn to the flame, to rise from the ashes to begin. We first must see the end. One brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tone echoes tumbling through time. Restore wasted, ten cast aside. Oh, no, no, no end inside. One brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tone echoes tumbling through time. Restore wasted, ten cast aside. Oh, no, no end inside. Rock of ages, we cast the first stone. In our cages, we know not what we need from there. Deep inside, we're nothing more than science and sinners. In the rain, to light and darkness fade. Yes, time circles endlessly. The hands of fate train ahead, right to the edge. All things change, drawn to the
So one thing I
Oh.
really want to see, and the way the mechanics of the game aren't really trending in this direction, but since we know that time flows differently on different shards, I would have loved to have seen another shard, and then that shard, like they found an empire on that shard, but then get to the point where they can actually cross the rift to other shards and start invading other shards, and then we have to stop it. And of course, my mic was muted, so nobody heard that. So good morning, everyone.
Woo!
Of
All right,
course, there was the much needed flex.
Of course, I had to. I absolutely had to. That to say, I was very, very happy this expansion. So, hello everyone, and I mean that both people listening and to all of you. It feels like we actually have the whole crew back again. And
That is
Aeneas,
an extremely busy background.
that is in a very extremely busy background, but I could not get the one I wanted. I'm still working on that, so this one's going to have to do for now. So, Aeneas, welcome to the team.
I am very excited to be here. It is still mildly surreal. Y'all wanted me on a little more permanent basis, but I'm very honored to join the crew.
We are very happy to have you and very, very excited. We're just, I don't know, it's always exciting to have new ideas and new perspectives. So very, very happy and very much looking forward to having a lot of good conversations with you in the future.
Wait, is she our only aura? Oh
Am
my
I?
god.
Oh my God, yes.
Because I'm the only Elizin. No, I'm not. No, Neil is an Elizin.
How
And then we
dare.
have Makote.
I was about to say.
He's literally right next to you.
Find Corrales in the corner, why don't you?
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do next?
So, as you might be aware, Dawntrail came out to apparently mixed reception. I don't care. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's not go into that.
Yeah, I want to talk about what happened in Dawntrail. And I got pretty much everything I wanted out of Dawntrail. In the fact that I have a lot of questions now, like a lot of questions. So I kind of want to ask all of you what your initial take is on the expansion as a whole, and then we'll kind of start diving into specifics. So we'll
I'll
start.
go last. You guys go at first.
All right, we'll just go in alphabetical order. So
Are you sure you want to go last? Because
Oh,
No.
yeah, that's true.
No, you're gonna go third. All right. So we'll start with Aeneas and then Arden. So
Oh,
go
goody.
ahead.
Well, for me, I was expecting a lot of Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy XI out of this expansion, and I had based a lot of my theories about like the physics revelations we were going to have around that. So I got pretty much everything I expected and wanted. So I'm thrilled. But as always, when we get questions answered, we get new questions asked too. So I'm excited to go crazy about new things instead and then get those questions answered like 4 years from now or however long it's going to take this time around.
I love
Not
it.
getting into story stuff.
Right, right,
Or,
right.
yeah, if I start talking about Final Fantasy XI, y'all gotta put me on a leash.
We're still
Yeah.
planning to have the Final Fantasy XI episode, and then you and Arden can just go nuts.
Go
Yeah.
insane about it. I love Final Fantasy XI. I love that they snuck so much of it into this expansion and nobody noticed, but they will. They will know. They will learn.
They will.
I was actually talking about that with a friend of mine. He's like, people are talking about all the 9 references, but no one is catching on to just how much 11 there is. I was actually having that conversation last night. I was just like, really, tell me more, because I missed most of it.
They took like the soul experimentation aspect of Final Fantasy IX and applied it to a story from Final Fantasy XI: Rise of the Zealot.
Hmm.
And I don't think any other combination of references to previous Final Fantasy games would have worked as well as these two together. I enjoyed it. I am biased, but I did enjoy it.
And Meowth and I are gonna go crazy when we start talking about the third story that they wove into that works really well. Okay, but Arden, go ahead.
Overall, I really enjoyed Dawntrail. I think you all know that I went in very skeptical after how I felt about Endwalker. And I was pleasantly surprised. I actually really enjoyed Dawntrail, so I'm looking forward to see how they resolve all of this in 10 years from now.
All right, Ayumi, how are they going to resolve all this in 10 years from now?
That was the shortest synopsis I've ever heard. Honestly, 10 years from now, we don't know. It could go from a number of different ways. My thoughts. Are we going into my thoughts, or are we just...
Not yet. This is just surface level thoughts about the expansion.
Okay. So, yeah, I really enjoyed Dawntrail. I finished it in a weekend, by the way. It was like less than 3 days. So, I wouldn't say that I skipped everything. I didn't, because I read through the dialogue. I took a lot of screenshots, so I have the receipts. But there's a lot of things that I loved, a lot of things that were kind of meh to me. And it did bring up more questions than it did provide answers for me. A lot of the main things that I took away from it were that some of the big cutscenes were not voiced, so it forced you to read.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Yep.
Now, this is something that the community does not like. Obviously, they're being forced to... They're used to listening to the cutscenes and getting the lore and story delivered to them by audio. This time, with reading, it probably would have given them more exposition than actually just having it on in the background and get your phone or whatever it is they do. But yeah, it provided me a lot more attention to what's going on in the background, what we could be seeing, what we have already seen, than I thought we would.
Mm-hmm.
And I look forward to what's coming in the next expansions.
All right. I would be next in alphabetical. So I was very pleasantly surprised by Dawntrail. I expected not what we got. And I very much like Arden, I was very cautiously optimistic. I was hoping we were going to have something that was going to grip me, that was going to engage me, and kind of reignite that passion for, asking those questions. What's going on? Where are they going with this? What is happening, basically. And I feel like I very much got that. I agree with Yumi that there were a lot of cutscenes that were not voiced. I was actually looking at the Unending Journey, and almost half of the quests happen after the train. And I thought that was interesting. And there's a lot of talk. Well, not talk, but there is a lot of conversation about how the writing was executed, but I think without having the rest of the story, it isn't really fair to judge the story as a whole. We only have basically half of the story at this point, so I'm very, very eager to see where they're going with this. So
Yeah, on half of the story, I think people are under the impression for some reason that Endwalker started a new trend, and that the .0 story is just it.
Yeah.
And it's very clearly
not.
not. A
wild assumption to make about Dawntrail, though.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Well,
it's
this must
very
be it.
clear.
Does that make sense now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's very clear they're returning to the old format of you
Yeah.
get most of the story in 0.0, but then we're gonna have like 3 patches more of this story and then set up for what comes next.
Right.
I wonder how much of the like dissent around this is because I agree with so much more of it needed to be voiced. I thought it was off-putting that it wasn't.
Same.
Yeah,
Despite
agreed.
the fact that I enjoyed the story, but I wonder how much of the dissent is also from like Endwalker being a solid 15 hours longer than Dawntrail, because Dawntrail was a relatively short expansion.
It was.
So to get so much in a compact kind of sequence, it's a very different change in pace, something that the game needed to reset the scale and the stakes on a little bit more of a personal level. But it does kind of feel like a rapid change of pace, especially after the Endwalker patch content.
I
Yeah.
think that it was more or less the bar is kept getting higher and higher and higher. Shadowbringers set a precedent that was not seen since World of Warcraft and Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah. I can see that.
And it was hard to top that, even with its following expansion, Endwalker. Endwalker didn't quite top Shadowbringers for most people. It was up there, but it didn't quite top it. So they're probably thinking, oh, let's hit that bar again. Let's hit Endwalker or above. And instead, they got another Stormblood.
All right. Neela, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna start with expounding a bit on the cutscenes thingy because I didn't find it all that. I like reading. Okay, to be fair, I really like reading.
How
I
you
like
dare.
reading cutscenes because I read a lot faster than they talk. So I'm like, bzz, 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 you know. But anyway, so that didn't bother me like I think a lot of people did. I understand people's attention spans nowadays are being drained by media, so that doesn't help. But I actually kind of liked it because I could go a little faster there. On the whole, I think my main takeaway from this expansion I really liked. I was cautiously optimistic as well, and I was pleased that we did a deeper dive and delving into the meat of some lore that we've been just like trying new stuff. No, we're going back to the roots, and we're digging deeper into the roots, and I really liked that.
Big same. Big same. I was scared when they said that, we're moving into a new story now, and I had this fear that pretty much everything we had established was just going to be left behind, and we were going to move on from that. And I was very happy that this is very much rooted in what we have been building, and that we are going to continue building on that. So
like we can go a new place with it, but we're setting our foundation first, which is kind of big to me.
Which makes me happy because now it's not just, oh, you can skip the first story and just start with this one because it has nothing to do with the original. No, it has a lot to do with the original. So very happy about that. All right. Meowth.
Oof.
Here we go. Meowth.
Before that, by the way, check the check what's on the channel. Check the wording and the formatting of the channel real quick.
What did I do?
Everything.
Oh, I see. You don't want Drope?
Drope.
I mean, it
We're
is
supposed to
pretty
be
drone.
professionals here.
It's
Debuff just
it's
dropped.
Electrope.
Yeah, come on, man. Get with the program.
Brought to you by the makers of Dropsy. Drope.
I hate Dropsy.
Me too.
So, okay, I'm going to start from the beginning. I started Dawntrail. I had kind of rekindled my faith 2 months before Dawntrail, or 3, I don't know. I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to give this a tentative hype. Then Ayumi came in with the theory.
The
and I was
theory,
like-
yes.
And I was like, yeah, maybe I could dig deeper and...
Would you call it an ultimate theory?
Yes.
Yes. And...
Game theory.
And I ran with it, and I was like, okay, I'm fully prepared to eat crow with this. Like, lots of crow, but I had to blur what was in my mind. So I wrote that. I got called on Reddit that I wasn't get out of the kitchen because I wasn't cooking. Then I was like, okay, fuck you. and and kept my flowcharts and my drive to myself, sort of kind of shared, but no one was paying attention. Yes, I'm going to be rubbing that on everyone's face for a while. So I go into Dawntrail, I went into Dawntrail because of certain stuff before. I went into Dawntrail part just enjoying the ride, and another part with my you know how I think, I think in meta narrative scope. So I went in with to be fair, I like Arden said, we kind of uh, guessed that by the name of the expansion, Dawntrail, we were going to be trailing on the steps of Azem. Of course, we don't. We my only theory supporting that was basically guesses and the fact that the pre-order kind of gave us the Asima earrings. They usually give an earring or an item that's related to the expansion. So giving us the Asima earring to me was like, okay, I'm sure we're going to go into Azem. So I went in with my my radars up. What I didn't expect it was that the expansion was not only about Ashen. That surprised me. But anyways, aside from that, I went to Dawntrail. I started taking notes. I started to be very chill the first part, and then comes the second part. And from the moment I entered Act 2 to the end of Dawntrail, I was just screaming. Like,
You should have seen you should have seen the Discord. It was a roller coaster from start to finish. You could see it as it kind of happened.
I mean, yeah, I streamed my run, and Yumi and Meowth were ahead of me, and they were at about that point. They hopped in and just started hanging out in my run, being like,
well, you just kind of, we had channels for each step of the journey, and you could just see us kind of devolve from like, all right, we're gonna go to the expansion, to like screaming, to like formulating things in the final channel.
Hey, Gio, thank you for following. Yeah, and if anyone wants to see that, that is all immortalized in our Discord. It is all there. And just seeing Meowth and Ayumi's descent into madness is amazing. Mine happened on stream.
Yeah, no, but so like I'm going to make a fast comment on that because I don't really want to take all the time, and believe me, I could, but I'm not. I won't.
Oh, I know you could.
What Aeneas said that the expansion was weaving 9 and 11. But like the package is 9, so to speak. But they of course always weave 11 because there's basically they're an MMO baby. But I did expect to go into this as a standalone expansion, not in Dawntrail. But what I did not expect was them going full into Fabula Nova Crystallis, into the 13 series and Type 0.
Mm-hmm. And that was shocking.
I did speculate about 13 expansion eventually, especially if there was one related to Alag, because they already used 13 elements when it comes to Alag. But that was the extent of my expectations. Going to Dawntrail was I had no words for what I experienced. Though there's a lot of
flailing.
Yes, a lot of flailing.
A lot of flailing, a lot of screaming, a lot of frustration too, because no one was actually realizing that. And I'm like, but this is not even fucking subtle. This is like Cobb has already made the videos of what's 13 in 14, and there's the whole thing about it being more like on a macro level, but this is no macro level anymore.
Yeah, this stopped being a macro level for 13. We are now introducing actual plot elements from the 13 series in 14, which was shocking to me because that has not happened to this point.
It is next on my list of Final Fantasy games to get through, and I cannot wait. I'm very excited.
Oh my god, it's
Just have me out in the chat with you.
yes,
Yeah.
just
Yes.
I'm gonna call out like,
It's
hey,
worth
I'm starting.
the only
Believe me, so I don't. So here's the thing. I did a company co-op during his blind playthrough of the series, which was an eventful one, so to say the least. So this is something I never. I sort of avoided bringing up because, you know how it's like with the 13th trilogy, and Fabula no Crystal is kind of like a something that you mention publicly and you get the looks at best. I never brought this up like when it comes to lore lines because I'm kind of like the resident experts, but it's not something like I felt the need to brag about. But now that we're
that has ended.
Now that we're coming into Fabula Nova Crystallis, and I know and I am familiar with the sphere, and I know that we don't have many lore divers that have gone deep into Fabula Nova Crystallis, if you will allow me the flex, this cast is right now very fortunate indeed.
And we are fortunate to have you. But yes, there is a lot. There's a lot of the. We say Fabula Nova Crystallis, not 13, because it's not just 13 that we saw in this. Like we saw tactics in Return to Ivalice, now we are seeing a lot of Final Fantasy Type 0 come into Dawntrail, which was a game I never expected to see in this, and now I have to finish it on stream. So I'm obligated now. So I got
For those that don't know, Type 0 was a PSP game that came out in Japan and was ported to America. It didn't really receive any real attention here, but it still was a very good game.
From what I have played of it, it's an excellent game. And I did not expect to see such heavy plot elements. I don't want to dive super into it yet, just because there's a lot to talk about in Dawntrail. And I know for Endwalker, we talked about it by zone. I kind of want to talk about it by act now, when we talk about Dawntrail. So, going to Tyrol, and then the whole adventure with Wuk Lamont, finishing that. That whole thing is kind of Act 1 for me, and then going to Arizona is Act 2. And then, prog rock Arizona, which I loved. It was a complete and utter side story, but I loved it. Yes. And then, of course, Act 3, which was, everything that happened after, which is about... If you look at the Unending Journey, about half of the quests in Dawntrail happen after the train ride. So there's a lot that happens after that. But I kind of want to talk about that first part, the contest for the throne, basically, and to get your thoughts on that and what you thought that added to the story, things that it brought, and things that we can discuss that came up in that first chunk. Anyone can go.
I have a lot of thoughts on that first section. I think there was a lot of discussion of what it makes, it was almost a play-by-play of what makes a good ruler. And it was interesting to see which characters understood that and which characters didn't within the narrative.
The answer, of course, is fear, which nobody really had. But
Fear will keep the masses in line. Fear of this battle station.
Oh, okay, chill down, Machiavello.
I really liked that first section. Right when Endwalker finished, I had a huge fear of is this story going to drag out because we don't it keeps doing the power scaling thing, or is it going to reset? And the thing that I had kind of settled on is you can have the same level of stakes on a more personal level. So I think turning it into a family reconciliation narrative that's staged around the idea of competing for a throne. I think
High stakes family. Yes.
Yeah, right. I think it was a very good way to kind of keep the stakes the same. Because like when it's personal, it's always more important, right? Like
Exactly.
saving the universe can be on the same scale as would you die for your sister. You know, like it's it keeps the stakes at the same place.
They're
while
both
resetting
existential,
the power
though.
scale.
Yeah, I
Correct.
agree.
Yeah. So it reset the power scale really well, and it allowed them to do very like character-driven narratives, which I personally enjoyed a whole bunch. And I think, like, I know I'm a lore person, but y'all are too. So I'm sure at least some of you had the same experience where you just enjoyed like getting to know more things about the worlds, like the little
Yes.
intricate details and making that personal for the player as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Arden?
I got distracted trying to.
It's okay. So yeah, I'll go. But basically, we're talking about what our take was on that first act. I absolutely adored the first act. It was great to just go and explore and just say, there are stakes here, but this is not the world at stake. This is just one person's journey and seeing the world from their perspective. I did have issues with a little bit of the writing, mostly in that, how are you the princess of a nation and you don't know how to say hello? That was just kind of a personal issue I had. But I absolutely adored that first section. I thought it was incredibly well done. And I ate it up. Absolutely ate it up. And it even that generated a lot of lore questions for me before anything else. So I was very happy about that. Just kind of like, okay, how does this work? Or what happened here? So yeah, I very much enjoyed it. So, okay, Arden.
I enjoyed the first half of the story, honestly. I would have probably been content if the entirety of Dawntrail had been like that, because my partner and I got to, basically the end of that arc, and we're like, Dawntrail could have ended here and we would have been happy.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
No, that's a controversial take.
Do we want to go into that?
No, only positivity here.
Yeah, that is around when we saw how people were responding to this expansion, and we were kind of just like, what? Why?
I didn't see anything until I turned on social media on Monday.
Always a
Oh,
mistake.
yeah.
Reasons
Yeah.
why you shouldn't check social media. That's a sure way to realize the stupidity of mankind.
Yeah.
If I turn it off for
Very
everyone, I
fair.
would.
Yeah.
I honestly really like taking on the mentor role. I do agree with some people that
Same.
certain facial expressions for the Warrior of Light were very overused.
Yeah, especially considering how many new facial bones we have and the crazy faces we can make.
Don't make me go into that.
That makes me very excited for
Are you having
Hildebrand.
trouble facing it? Oh my, yes.
Wow. Trouble facing it. Okay.
What?
Nothing at all. I'm
Had to
proud
get
of
at
you.
least one pun in somehow.
We
You
miss
were
you,
waiting for
Neela.
that.
But I think it's a testament also to this expansion that we have so much more energy again. It feels like it's breathed new life into the mythos of the game and into the lore that we have, and it's been really exciting. This has been a really exciting time, and that's just not even after what happened, but just even part one. I absolutely agree. It could have ended with the coronation, and I'd been like, okay, good game. I was satisfied with that, and then they went further, and I was like, oh, okay.
Anything else to add, Arden?
Not really, because even though from my perspective, I think a lot of the cultural references were handled well, as someone who's not part of any of the cultures, I don't feel like I should be the one to expand upon that.
Fair.
So, as someone who is part of that culture, Sorry. That's
Our in-house consultant.
yeah. It's so I will say.
I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
No, I will say it wasn't. I thought it was handled well. I didn't find any of it offensive. It was just weird to see, like seeing the Pelu
We are
Pelu.
celebrating your culture. And it's like, no one's ever
I'm like,
cared before. I
yes.
don't know how I feel about
I've
that.
got
That's-
stuff to say about that.
That's exactly right. And like I've run into people in the past who are like, "Oh my god, that culture is so amazing," and I'm just like, okay, because it's just been like it's just part of my life, I guess, or growing up. And it's really weird. Like I had to glam over the gatherer and crafter gear because I was looking at it and I was like, this just looks like my grandma. So I'm like, I can't like look at it and be like, no. All you're missing is like the double braided pigtails, and you're there. So I'm like, I appreciate that it's there, but it's like. I suddenly understand how people in Japan must feel when people are like, Japanese culture is so amazing, and they're just like, okay. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling like, okay, that's
Western
cool.
accents.
Yeah.
It's
I think I was particularly concerned because of how they've handled other cultures in the past, in 14 specifically.
hmm
So going into Dawntrail, I was just like bracing for impact of like, okay, are they going to handle this with class, or is the game going to get like actually canceled?
I remember actually talking to you about this at FanFest, Cobb, because we'd seen the reveal, and then I think you and I met up a few hours later.
Yeah.
And you were so excited to just see a hint of it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it was handled well,
Yeah.
well enough to the point where you were like, oh, this is just actually my family, and it's like
Yeah.
it's an uncanny valley for you.
Yes.
I take it that's a good sign, but I was thinking about you the whole time. 'Cause I remember how excited you were about
I was like,
you gushed about it for like an hour.
I was just kind of in shock, I guess, after the reveal. I was like, is this really happening? Like, is they're pulling from
It's
that?
probably
Okay.
a bit surreal.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, my grandmother on my mother's side was descended from the Andean tradition. So she had a lot of Incan in her. So yeah, that's kind of where I come from. So she did dress like that. She had the colorful clothes and all that. It was just weird to see that in a game, and like I said, I've seen people gush about it in the past, and I'm like, okay, it's just strange to see celebrated, but I'm not like far from upset about it. Actually, the opposite. It's just like I think it's cool, but it's just like you said, uncanny valley for me. It's kind of like not what I would have expected in the game. Zoila says, if it ended with the coronation, would have missed out on all the Shalawani and Vieira stuff, which was a high spot for me.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely agree. Neela, do you want to give your thoughts on that first chunk?
I liked taking the mentor role. I know a lot of people didn't care for that so much. I felt like where do we even go from here? You know, save the universe. What do we do now? Well, I don't know. Maybe there's another crop of heroes that need some guidance coming up and all that. I liked the exploration aspect. I've always loved exploration in games, and it was an interesting, colorful world. It was one that, like, unless someone decides their warrior of light should be from this location, like, you don't have any in-game canonical familiarity with this new continent. You know, it's all new and exciting and interesting and very colorful. I like that. I think it took good advantage of the graphics update. And there was times when I found Look the Mod a little grating just because she has a personality type I don't really vibe with. But I don't think she was done badly. She was just not done to my taste and preferences. And she did grow. The growth felt very sporadic to me, but you know, I'm not going to quibble too much on that. It's just she wasn't my cup of tea, and that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Meowth?
I liked her brother
Yeah,
until
everyone
he
did.
turned out to be an idiot.
And we love that for him.
Meowth, what
Me.
were your thoughts? Yeah.
I really liked the first act. I was so as someone who's in kind of like in the middle between part of the culture and not part of the culture. I'm kind of in the middle because you could say I'm part of the Hispanic sphere, but I'm not part of the South American Mesoamerican sphere.
Right.
But
You're a
I know,
conquistador.
but it's part of a joint story, so we are naturally in. So, as an aside, we are taught in Spain as much not as much perhaps, but a lot of Latin American history as much kind of like alongside ours, because we kind of hold the belief that we are basically a cooking pot of cultures, you see. So so in that aspect, I recognize certain themes, I recognize certain words, I recognize references. I do have acquaintances that are from Latin America, and and even if I wouldn't recognize some stuff myself, I would recognize some stuff by stuff they would have told me about. And of course there's reference to Spanish and all that, and it's kind of what Cobb had with his culture and the stuff. It's kind of to me it's like seeing Spanish in my native language in the game. It's what feels weird in a good way. But no, I'm not used. Like
No.
we've been begging Square Enix to translate the game to Spanish for a while now, and seeing words in proper Spanish and reference is like, wow, that's kind of like the shock here. But aside from that, I think I mean it was more like a chill part of Dawntrail, yes, but it was also loaded with foreshadowing, which I took note of.
Mhm.
I took note of, and people have conveniently or forgotten about that because they did not post read all the lore that was again, yeah. The game could have done with more cutscenes, but I am also of the belief that reading wouldn't never kill anyone. so so
Exactly.
Tell me, do you
so
know how to
yeah.
read?
And B, because of the high stakes of the second part, most people kind of erase from their memories what happened in the first part, and I think that's a big mistake. The first part is basically setting you up with the structure of the meta narrative,
Mhm.
and like for example, when we got to the Yokhui and they tell you the whole their memories, their beliefs that
Mhm.
that memories keep people alive, and I was like, oh my god, this is taken from Fabula Crystallis,
Yeah.
and I remember
That's when it
I think it
started
was
for
Cobb
me
and
off.
Neela both tagging
Hey,
me
meow,
in
meow. Have
on
you seen this?
Discord.
Have you seen this?
And I'm like,
Exactly.
what do you, and I'm like, and I was like, what do you think? Did I see that or not?
Sounds like a maybe.
And 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 yeah, and the first part when it actually started to become clearer to me. So Lamata and Erembil are very much part of this whole structure. I think I've recognized this ever since 655, but there's a lot of that going on Dawntrail, and the first act really lays the foundation for that. But the moment it started to become less than subtle is the cenote. But that's something that I would say for discussing uh, symbolism and visuals, because it's not something that this is something that the game actually is not handing you. They're using the line returns storytelling technique, which admittedly is difficult. It's a difficult one to handle, but fortunately I do have experience on it.
So that first act, I absolutely agree. There was so much foreshadowing, a lot of very subtle lore drops, but I thought it was really nice to get that without feeling like, oh, the world is in danger. And there was kind of
Agreed.
that hint of, oh yeah, Zoralja. There was a mention of him wanting to invade Eorzea. Thank you for following, Gal. But in the actual core of Dawntrail, it's never stated. Like, it's only in the pre-patch leading up to it saying, oh yeah, he's going to invade Eorzea if he wins. This is more like, oh no, he's just going to start wars. But not specifically anywhere specific, like not Eorzea or anything like that. It's just he wants people to be exhausted from war and attain peace through war exhaustion, which is kind of silly. I understand his perspective. Like, if people lose the will to fight, then yes, they're not going to fight. But yeah. Oh, he does mention steamrolling old Charlene. Okay.
Does, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, he
That's
does.
fair. Then Charlian, but they kind of deserve it. But they're not going to put up much of a fight. They're just going to just say okay because they're pacifists. So, yeah, it felt very low stakes. It was nice to just kind of explore and to take our time exploring and and meeting Bakul Jaja.
That's the burning question of Act 1. Fuck all of the lore and the storytelling. What was everyone's thoughts about our son, Bakul Judge?
Let's not go into that.
Please, no, let's go into
My
it right
opinion
now.
took
'Cause-
such a turn.
Not when I have
Same.
thoughts on my first half, so.
Very well,
Okay,
very
so-
well.
All right.
Yumi.
So literally, the entire first part of the story, my partner and our friends were calling him either Poo Poo Jaja or Uncool Jaja because we were just all so smashed. And then he got redeemed, and most of us are happy about it, and then the other half of the friend group are fucking pissed that he didn't die still, and are like, why is Square making me like him?
Because he's hot. Next question.
Not you
So-
two.
So
Oh, are you really surprised?
they're correct. He's not cool. He's Bakuler Jaja.
Correct.
True.
On that note, Cobb, you should know that someone found your Bakuler Jaja meme, and they actually passed it with Jar Jar Binks' faces on him and called him Bakuler Jar Jar.
I saw that.
So-
Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Quitting
It's so
actually.
blurst.
So it's not my meme. I stole it.
Okay.
It was in another Discord, and I was like, "That's funny."
It is funny.
Terrible game.
I thought the best way to introduce a how should I say this? Not serious bully villain was to have him step on tacos. I was like, that's the
Right?
stakes we're dealing with here. Is a murderer of tacos. And
I love all the meme redraws of that people have been doing too.
Oh, the one with the child on the floor.
Yeah.
Shadow.
Oh, I need to see that one.
I'll
the
find a
hell?
link for you after this.
They're
Bless.
so good.
But see, Gio says, I will never forgive him for stepping on my tacos. They weren't even your tacos. They were Wu Clamont's tacos.
Right?
Like, you weren't even going to get any.
So the thing with Bakul Jaja was interesting. As I was taking notes in my personal Discord, I was taking notes in my for most of the first act before I went into Yachtel, and I decided to descend and share my thoughts with mortals. But I was actually taking notes on all of the characters, and I was like, I did remember taking a note on Bakul Jaja saying Bakuja is so obviously set as the big antagonist enemy for this arc. Is so blatant. I think this is a major red herring, and lo and behold,
Yeah.
I was right. So, what I did not expect was the way they did that, which I think was fantastic.
I
That
agree.
one I saw coming just largely because they've been doing such a good job of taking like tidbits of Mamulja lore and expanding on it in a way that is inherently sad. Uh, every
You're
single
not
time.
wrong though. That's insane.
Right, yeah, and it's so I had seen something like that coming, but that whole sequence of events in the cenote, it was just absolutely heart-wrenching, and it retroactively makes the beginning of the expansion
So
you
much
see it-
deeper.
yeah, you kind of see it through a different light because
Yeah.
Gulul Jaja had to have
Same
experienced that
tragedy.
as well, right? So everyone is wondering, why is he letting Bakul Jaja into this contest? What could possibly be his motivation for allowing this horrible
I
person
wonder.
to be a part of it? And like, I can't help myself from imagining Gulul Jaja just seeing so much of who he was like 100-something years ago,
Mhm.
because it is heartbreaking, and he wanted to give Bakul Jaja a chance. And I'm glad that he did, because he did actually break a whole cycle of abuse that was so ingrained in the family line. I thought it was beautiful.
Not only that, but also addressed a lot of some of the stuff that Mamook never would have willingly addressed, except for the fact that he was involved in the trials, and you know, and that made it all kind of come out.
He gave
So I
him
think
a
there was an intentional element to that. For me, personally, on the subject of him, the only complaint I have about his arc is he went very quickly from I'm entitled to my life sucks and this is why, and I'm getting better about it, which is fine. I'm glad, but it just felt like, wow, that's a fast turn. We had a lot of fast turns in this expansion. It felt like certain things were rushed, and that's that's just my opinion. I like to take it a little slower, I guess. Maybe the average attention span can't handle that now. I don't know. I'm getting old. But I think it was well done, and as soon as I caught that like split-second flashback of all the like urns, I couldn't tell what they were. I thought they were eggs, and I was like, "Oh no!" And I could instantly tell, "Oh shit's gonna get sad."
I thought they did a good job with that. I will say, so my character's backstory since like Heaven's Word or Stormblood has been that they're from the New World, specifically Mumalja area. Mamook.
Fitting.
Yeah, which so I was kind of absorbing all the Mumalja lore, and I thought, not only does this help explain a lot of Mumalja culture, it also adds new context to ARR in Wanderer's Palace Hard with the silver scales and why they did something so outrageous. Why Menjom Jaja went out there, made an ass of himself, got all his people killed. And if you've done Wanderer's Palace Hard, I absolutely love all of the callbacks to that. So in the beginning, they're like, "Did you hear
Yes.
about the silver scales?" Like, they came back and like half of them were dead.
And then cool Jaja talked to each other, that sort of mimicked a little bit of that, which was also fitting because he had the same kind of like bully villain mentality at the time.
Right, absolutely. And just kind of the Warrior of Light's face when you overhear that in the bar, it's just so priceless.
So it's like this
it's
shit
like
again, huh?
Does anyone know if that is a cutscene that changes whether or not you've done Wanderer's Palace Hard?
I believe it is, but I don't know anyone who hasn't done it. So
Right,
I
that's
Yeah, I
can't
was
right.
gonna
say.
say, I have no idea if we found someone who hasn't done it.
Yeah.
Like it just wouldn't make sense to have it if
True.
if you hadn't done it. And I know, for instance, if you've done Alo Alo Island, there's an additional cutscene in the final zone.
Oh.
Yes. So it talks specifically about Alo
didn't know
Alo
about
Island, and specifically states that the Malala came from there.
That is a can of worms we cannot open right now.
Not right now. That's going to be its own episode, and we are going to have it out because I know there is disagreement even among us, which I cannot wait for because I want to talk about that.
I don't understand.
I'm just trying to
help.
think of if I got that cutscene now. Because I've done Aloe Aloe, and I've done the Criterion and the Criterion Savage, but I don't remember them mentioning Aloe Aloe by name. So I wonder if it's tied to either getting all of this stuff in the variant version.
Maybe. If you've done all 12 paths. So my friend who I ran through the story with, he had done all 12 paths. He got the cutscene. I have not run Aloe Aloe Island, so I got nothing.
It may be tied specifically to the 12th route, because that's always the quote-unquote secret boss. Because you do get special dialogue options to choose from towards the start of the game, but only if you've done that path.
Right.
Because it necessitates you understanding the puzzle to actually get to that boss.
And Quantum says you get a chat dialogue about the secret boss for sure. So I think that's the key then.
I would wager that's it. I can't recall if they use like the actual name of Aloe Aloe Island, but they do talk a great deal about the Southeast Isles specifically. Yeah. That's kind of how they phrase it, because
pick that much up, yeah.
That civilization has not been around for a hot minute.
Right. Several thousand years.
I think it's really funny that everyone was like, why the fuck are we getting Aloe Aloe Island as like this whole thing, and then Dawntrail happens.
And yeah, we were all like, oh, this is a completely irrelevant dungeon. What is this even about? Why is this here? Oh, it's the most important one.
Yeah, and people were also being like, why is the South Sea Isles getting wasted on a variant dungeon?
Right.
That's funny.
So basically, as of now, the only things left in Emmett Sulk's shopping list is Blind Frost and Mercidia, basically.
Yeah. And if you look back at his list, it's funny. All of his things now relate to shards.
Yeah.
Yes, and if the other two do as well, then it would make sense to have it into a new expansion with Mare City, I think.
Yeah.
It feels like a laundry list of shit that he didn't get a chance to fix before he went back to the live stream, and he's like, hey, I trust you now, you have my respect. Can you go deal with this, please?
So is that what he put... No, here's a theory for you. He puts Azim's symbol, like I remember seeing it in Alzadal's Legacy, he puts it there to be like, not my problem, you deal with this.
It's like when he went to take a nap in the void. He's like, I've done my time, I just need a little break. And then he goes to get woken up, and he's like, yeah, so we've got dead Asians. We need you to come clean it. He's like, I just wanted a break. I just needed one of you to be capable enough to do shit while I was gone for barely a century. This is him actually doing that this time around. And he's not waking back up.
And we don't know how long that will last, I will tell you.
Right.
Yeah. We need to just grab him by the ear and drag him out of the ethereal sea and be like, you're helping fix this mess, fuck you.
I like the idea of him checking in on the Warrior of Light, just, like, astrally projecting, and the thoughts are just like, fuck you, what are you doing? Why did you do this? Why? None of you could fix this mess, it only took me 2 weeks, what the hell is wrong with you?
Not gonna lie, I am still keeping an eye out for, like, fucking Shoebill to just randomly show up.
Your mess, you clean it up, Quantum.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
A real quick interjection here. If we're talking about Dawntrail, it's inevitable to talk about Metzelk, really. Like, it's everywhere. Like, it's everywhere you look.
It
As
really is.
Metzelk, it is. And I actually got Cobb to actually realize that and admit it. So there's that.
Yeah. So if you look at it, it's very much us taking a step back into that mentor role, but then seeing Wook Lamont kind of take that place of Azim in the beginning, and Aaronville basically being dragged along as though he were Hades. And you especially see it in the final zone, especially when we see him give his penultimate speech, and actually emoting exactly the same as Emmett Selk did.
Yeah.
Not subtle.
Not at all.
I was like,
Not subtle at all.
And it makes me wonder, had he been reborn, would he be Erenville?
Okay, not gonna lie, because of the time fuckery, I've been thinking for a couple years now that, like, after Endwalker initial story finish, I was like, okay, if they're actually going back to the Ethereal Sea and getting quote-unquote recycled, and the Ethereal Sea is supposed to transcend time, doesn't that just theoretically mean that they could have been reborn already?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
heartbreaking, though. Like,
Yeah.
just from a personal perspective, I know we don't have soul sight, but at some point, maybe the Echo will grant that to us. Just imagine looking at the souls of people you've lost, not just the Ascians, but other Scions we've lost along the way, and having their eyes look back at you with absolutely zero recognition. Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Emotionally devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Tell that poor Hades, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. It's just an endless cycle of devastation.
I will say one point against that idea, at least with all the other theories we've had, is Emmett Selk and Erenville do not share the same eye color, at least, according
That's
to
true.
Garland Tools.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
No, but I think but the similarities are there, and even if they craft Erenville in Endwalker as basically this side character, it did work very well for Dawntrail and the parallels.
Narrative parallels. Yes, I
Mhm.
think.
Quantum says, I was quite okay with that. I'm an oldish man, so it doesn't trot on my ego not being the main character. But I kind of wish Wook's character writing was a tiny bit less, okay, they're Ash Ketchum / Naruto Uzumaki.
That,
Oh,
So I think that...
don't insult Lamat comparing her to Ash, please.
I will say that's a good segue.
things you know a
into-
real Meowth would say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I will say that's a good segue to talk about Wook Lamont, because Wook, of course, is going to be a very important character, in the same way that Lise was a very important character. So let's talk about Wook Lamont.
But I
Let's
haven't
go
got
into-
a chance to talk yet.
Oh, Ayumi. Okay, I'm sorry. Please go.
Tell us all
I
about how
gotta
hot
skip. I
Buckle
might as well
Jaja is.
quit. No, I'm just kidding. So we're gonna go back about 30 minutes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go over the first half.
Okay.
The first zone, Tuliala, I really liked it because it was nice and big. It gave me a chance to explore a huge starting area. What threw me off though was the music. It did not fit at all. I thought we were gonna kind of get this tropical tribal vibe. Instead, we got speakeasy 20s vibe. It was fun to explore and find a couple of jumping puzzles there.
Oh, I didn't find those.
There is one at the top near the palace. And I really liked the new inn. I really like how it gives a nice view of the ocean at the back. All in all, Tuliala is a great place to just kind of AFK too. Moving into the first area, Yaktel, you actually get a couple of two areas you can go into. One of them being Yaktel, and the other one being Kozamoka. I did Yaktel first, which was the land of the Hanu.
You mean Urkapacha?
No, Urkapacha is the one of the giants.
Isn't Yaktel the third zone?
Yeah, Yaktel is the
Yeah,
third.
that's why I was
business zone.
confused. Sorry.
It's like
Yep,
Kozama
that one.
Uka, and I can never remember how to pronounce
Kozamoka
it.
and then Urkapacha.
No.
Yeah.
I had a long time. It took me a long time, a long while
You're right,
to
you're right.
remember Kusama.
Sorry,
You're right,
not to
you're
be
right, you're right,
semantics.
you're
I
right.
was just like Yaktel.
No, I think you meant Yaktaral.
Yeah,
Yaktel.
there you go.
Yeah, no. Backing up. So, Urkapacha, I did that one first. And I believe that one was no, I didn't do Urkapacha first. I did Zamauka. Yes, that one. The land of the Hanu, the forested one. The one with the giant waterfalls. I liked how you kind of went over the cultural aspects of the Hanu. I know that not everyone really liked that zone, and the Hanu, how you had to kind of remind them of their traditions that they had gone over for the past century. And that, oh, if you taught them how to do their spiritual and cultural heritage dance, that it would have saved the reeds. How did you forget all of this? Like, I get that, but it's still nice to learn about it, even if it's presented in a bad way. I liked how there was a reference to Academia Niter in there with the Quetzalcoatl. All in all, I really liked that zone over the other zone, which was Kozamuka. Which one was it? I cannot. All these zones I have to get used to. Yaktel, Hrothgar, was it Kozamuka, the second zone? Or was it Urkopacha?
Yeah, so
Yeah, that
you
was
can
the
do either one first. I did Urkopacha first, and Kozamaoga for second. So yeah, Urkopacha is the one with the Pelu Pelu. Hanu live in Kozamaoga. It's a swamp.
I did find it actually. I think there was a lesson in the thing, which is just doing tradition for tradition's sake isn't helpful. You need to understand it and know what it's doing for you to know whether it's worth continuing or whether it's worth modernizing. That's what I got from it personally.
Yeah. The Urkopacha area, that one had the Pelu Pelu in it, and we learned the value of trade. That was a little bit fun. I mean, we traded wool for eventually a bottle of liquor and tequila. And we got it that way. We corralled an alpaca, which, I mean, interesting all in itself. And Zeralja had to show off his golden alpaca. Had to show off that he could catch a shiny Pokemon, but that's
How much
besides
gil
the
do
point.
we think that fucking alpaca is gonna cost when they release it as a mount?
Oh Jesus!
Oh god, I hadn't even thought of that.
It's probably going to be the 25 million gil sync for Dawntrail.
It's not
It's
True.
always
cost-
fun.
And I
It's
will
not
buy
going to
it.
cost me a thing because I won't buy it. So
I will.
I won't be able to afford it.
and then going into the next area, Yaktel. That area of the giants, that was interesting because it revealed some lore that we did not know quite yet. Having them reveal that they have had some visions of a certain area, the Golden City, and all the murals on the wall just kind of piqued my interest. I had to take quite a few screenshots of those, and they had to tell us a few stories that kind of made me think a little bit. And that was the area we also fought Valley Garmonda in, which was to them a kind of auspice, which reminded me of the auspices of the East. A lot of players refer to Valley Garmonda as kind of type of like nuclear bomb that
The
a cool
Skyrim.
Jaja just kind of unleashed. I would probably not go that far. I would say it was just unleashing a primal or auspice on the world, and I think they kind of oversold Valley Garmonda a bit, just a little bit, but it was still a fun fight overall.
I find it interesting that its fire is still burning even though it's gone.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was something interesting presented as everlasting fire, and apparently it's not just limited to fire, but also the ice and the lightning it creates. And I find, even though Belgarmanda could come across as irrelevant, perhaps I don't think it's the case. There's many details in the trial, and also the fact that they introduced everlasting X means that they were already introducing the concept of something everlasting that later on ties on with the concept of the endless.
I also liked how we went and visited the Moblins again too.
Yeah.
It was cool that we kind of went over the artisan aspect of like pot packs, and that the Moblins kind of went through a contract with outside artisans that, hey, you make this, we provide you with food, clothing, shelter, all that. I really liked that. And then moving on to the next area, we got to learn about the Mamulja, which kind of took a darker turn. I mean, all this time we were kind of helping Buklamont on. We were kind of cheering her on. We kind of let her kind of make the decisions. However, and this is kind of where I kind of took issue with her character. We didn't really let her make the decisions. It was all us kind of throwing that decision out there and her just kind of going along with it.
Yeah.
And she kind of, even though she kind of, I want to say it's enthusiasm, but it's more like naivety, because a lot of people did not like how upbeat and cheerful and believe it she was. I kind of attributed that to how she was raised in the palace and not out, experiencing different cultures like her father did. And that was the whole point of the contest itself, was to go out and explore the myriad races and cultures of Tuliolo, and kind of cultivate a new Dawn servant. But then going back to Mamulja, we learn about Bakul Jaja's past, his father, Father of the Year, by the way.
We had Mother of the Year, and now we've got Father of the Year.
Quite, yeah. Straight up just disowned right away. And then we go into the kind of notes of the area, and I question those to this day about what exactly formed them. Formed them, where they came from.
It just gets worse in the Gathering quest line.
Oh my god, the Gathering quest line. And then we kind of get to a point where the cool Jaja gets depressed, we follow him, and then he leads us to a cenotaph at the far left edge of the map. And then we discover that the eugenics program that they have been leading for the last couple 100,000 years has got him depressed, and that's his motivation for actually getting into the contest and kind of breaking the cycle. And that's where we kind of find our motivation to go after the Golden City proper. And then we come across it.
That's kind of where I started losing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, we went into a dungeon full of dead babies, and what we got at the end was the vaulted glass in Destiny.
Well, I mean, I started freaking out in the Sky Deep Cenote because there was Ronkin stuff in there. And
yeah, I was freaking out of that too.
Yeah,
that made me sorry. I was so vindicated on that because I had tweeted that like the second that we saw just the concept art, and people called me insane for it on Twitter, and I'm like, no,
well,
you will
that's
look at
Twitter.
This, you will learn.
People on Twitter are kind of.
I think you'll find that people call us insane a lot.
I know.
Like anyone who lore dives gets called insane, and then we get vindicated when we're right. So
it's the very why are you booing me? I'm right, me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, literally.
Hate us all you want, but we're right on a lot of things. I'm sorry. There's a reason we have multiple people here instead of just one person just barking to the masses.
Right.
Yeah, it's the shotgun method. Eventually one of us will be right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's more than just that, because we feed off each other, we bounce off each other, and we come up with things we wouldn't have otherwise.
Each of us have kind of different area of expertise, and that's why we kind of either correct each other or kind of funnel our interests and create one theory that kind of, doesn't run into roadblocks along the way.
But getting back to it, so we discover the giant Illuminati pyramid, and discover that there's a Charlian gate at the end. That made me question things a lot. Like, okay, so I guess Fortunato kind of shoveled his funds, and we built a gate here long ago.
Do you remember the fishing quest in Endwalker, the Studium quest?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how they said, oh yeah, we've got a way to go through time?
Which is absolutely not concerning nor considering preservation, but fine.
Yeah, we've got a Stargate on Toledo.
It's fine.
hidden away somewhere.
I'm so glad someone else is calling it a Stargate.
It's
I mean,
That was
it's-
the I said too.
It's
It was
definitely
Stargate.
Don't get me started on what it is. because-
yeah.
I know, but just
Cobb and
calling
I-
it a Stargate makes me happy.
Cobb and I are big fans of sci-fi.
Yeah.
So
As am I. High five.
I binge watched Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis like a year or
Yeah.
two back.
But not universe. Why?
I got distracted by other things.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
okay. Yeah, so we discovered the Stargate. We don't activate it. We just kind of get approached by Gulul Jaja and then taken home and then go through the rite of succession. And everyone's happy. It was a correct. The program went through correctly. We cultivated a new Dawn servant. She's going to look out for us. We're all happy. Koana is going to serve as the head of reason. And everyone is happy about that because he's an innovator and the type to kind of serve as Wuklomat's check. And that's where the first half kind of ends. Now, the whole first half, I didn't really mind because that was the whole point of the first half, was to introduce the whole continent, nearly the whole continent, to you. The whole continent that was not quite affected by what was going to come next. It was going to introduce the people that we were going to help, who we were going to kind of interact with probably for the next decade. And if we kind of ignored that and kind of rushed through, it would have made the story a lot more difficult to understand. It would be like going back to ARR and just kind of going through Gridania, Limsa, and Ulda in the span of a couple of hours. You wouldn't know certain characters or certain plot lines and would have just completely ignored them and probably forgotten about them. You need to take it slow. You need to learn about what the cultures are, what the history is behind these zones, and before you can take a step back and actually go through what's troubling them. But yeah, that's where we were. We finished the ceremony. We got our bus pass for the giant bridge, and that's kind of where we stopped at for the first half.
Another thing about the first half, now that I'm thinking about it, is it's also been really good setup for the society quests that we're gonna get.
That was my assumption as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when do you think we'll get the Moblins? 7.4?
It can't come soon
It's
enough.
gotta be Crafter.
Yeah,
yeah.
they can't come soon enough.
It's...
And they better have the Mavalopolis.
Yeah, okay, I was about to ask you about that art. Because my friend sent me that, and I was like, suddenly I'm interested in leveling crafters, actually. Please. I saw that, and I was like, oh, Promothia and the Alliance raids? Please, 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 on my hands and knees, begging.
Please.
I'm convinced that's going to be a dungeon.
Oh, that would be even better, actually, because then I could see it more regularly.
So, and one thing I did want to point out was I did find a translation error in the story. During the Rite of Secession, Luke Lamont is going over all of the regions and thanking them for going through their cultural heritage that she learned. And in going over Kazumauka, she mistakenly says, "Oh, in Kazumauka, I have to thank the giants for teaching me, about their heritage instead of Yaktel."
Oops.
You know, I think that just might be her crossing her crossing a
Well,
stream.
just like I did. That's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Is they have the giants in attendance, so why didn't they huh?
They just need to add a scene of the
What the
giants looking at
fuck?
each other, being like, "What? We don't live there." Yeah,
like, our
standard whoop.
tentative alliance is now ended. Thank you.
Alliance with Talil is over. Now Solution 9 is my friend.
I think that's where everyone is.
And Quantum,
Don't
I
get
absolutely
me
agree.
started on Solution 9 because I will.
No, we're not going to start on that, because if we start on that, we'll be here till like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as for Bakul Jaja, as you guys went over earlier, I seriously thought he was going to be the person that we were not going to let ascend. Turned out to be Zoralja,
Agreed.
but still, he was one of those oh, he's just a douchebag. He's one of the racist people that we're gonna find this expansion, and then he turned out not quite that way, but he has his own background, he has his own story, and it's very sad. A
Yeah.
lot of people thought that he shouldn't be forgiven for doing a complete 180, a complete pivot that quickly. I thought it was handled fairly well, but that's just me.
No, I agree.
They set up for his backstory pretty early because he mentions like his siblings
Yeah.
Mhm.
pretty early on.
And there's some mention of it's there's a lot of things that don't go right in these unions or something. I forget the details at this point.
Yeah.
1
It
in
was
100
hinted.
survive.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot they said specifically. Did they say specifically that early? I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It was,
1
it
in
was an
100
absurd
survive.
number. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
there's thousands down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we
So,
killed the last one we came across.
Yeah.
I mean, we did.
Oh!
I'm gonna take your void card away from you.
It's
Aeneas, you said you were gonna say something. Yep.
yeah, I love the way they set that up early on too, because you very much get introduced to Bakul Jaja after you find out that there's someone that you can't let ascend the throne, and then they introduce Zoralja, and it's like, oh, it's him that we can't let ascend the throne. What the hell is up with Bakul
And then it's like, why
Jaja?
can't we hear them?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean that it's not Bakul Jaja? Because that happens after the cutscene with the tacos, where Woklamat very much kind of shows like signs of fear at him. Well founded, because
Right.
he's putting up that good of a front.
Because he ascended in a different way after the expansion ended
Right.
on social media.
That's true. He ascended a different throne.
True.
Yeah, it is fun. You can actually go see him in the overworld right now too, and he's very excited just to be like contributing to society in a meaningful way.
That's so
it's-
At
funny.
the
Yeah,
guard
he's-
post? Okay.
Yeah, at the guard post, he's literally standing outside. He's like, "I will die for this. This is my new life's purpose." So there is a sense of this is very much like character analysis for me right now. But I like that the idea that somewhere underneath that attitude of I am entitled to this throne because I am a blessed sibling, part of him just wanted to do something. And now he has.
I think there
purpose
was
that doesn't
parental
involve, like-
expectation. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So now he can do that in a way that uses his strengths in a way that's meaningful to him, because he does feel very strongly about his lost siblings. And he doesn't have the pressure of, having to rule. So I hope he continues to be happy. And as a very selfish part of me who wants Gululja to call him Uncle Bakul Jaja at some point,
Oh
I
my
think
god.
if that
That'd be
happens in patch
adorable.
content, I will die happy. That's what I want.
I have taken so many screenshots of Gululja. Cause like
He's
as
adorable.
soon as like
Baby.
my partner and I first saw him like peek around the corner, we both just yelled, "Baby!"
He's just Lizard Anduin. Let's be real.
Please elaborate.
What, Anduin?
Lizard
Yeah, I
Anduin.
don't get the reference.
You know, Anduin is the boy prince in World of Warcraft on the Alliance side.
Not so much a boy anymore.
Not so much a boy anymore, but back in like Mists of Pandaria and before, he was the kind of boy king, just kind of learning about what the world is and the cultures of the Alliance and such. But he had an arc where he had to kind of be thrown into the madness, into the chaos of the world, and he kind of had to grow up fast.
I see. Makes sense then.
Where's his mom?
That's a good
I
question.
want to know. Wait. Oh,
Well, I
Coach
don't
Anna's mom.
want to think of like where, but who.
Yeah,
I'm
that
so confused on that. Like, it's obvious blessed siblings have two parents. They have this dual heritage. There's no question about that. Like, where is Zoralja's mom? Did he have a mom? Where the fuck is Bakul? Yeah, no, sorry, Galulja's mom. Where is she? Why is she not there for him?
there's that, and then there's also the fact that they do have like genome tanks in Solution 9 that doesn't really get addressed because
God.
they borrowed like the whole soul thing from FF9. There is a pretty big chance that Galulja may just be a clone.
That's
And-
what I was
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah, Solution
Same.
9 and Alexandria just did not go further into how they were doing that, because if you're... I know we're not going to get too far into this today, but since we're discussing Galulja, there is a chance that instead of the solution they came up with of living memory, that once upon a time they were like, oh, we can just take the souls and the memories and put them in a new body, and then they can live forever without having to use like souls as complete fuel and have like basically non-physical form, because
Yeah.
that was like the plot point of Gaia in Final Fantasy IX. So there's every chance that Galulja was part of that experiment.
And Galulja is kind of our Zidane reference anyway, isn't he?
Yeah.
Seems to be, yeah. Which is odd that I didn't like reveal anything about circumstances of birth or whatever at all in this main plot. I guess maybe we'll get into that later. It's odd
If
to me
it's-
though, is all.
If it's a clone, if it's a result of a clone experiment, that would definitely raise an interesting connection between the Alexandrians and Alec.
I think it
Yeah.
would be something that would be fun to explore in patch content, whether through MSQ or maybe another variant dungeon or something along those lines, because they've clearly deliberately left that plot point open to us for speculation.
How dare they let us speculate? How dare?
Oh, it's so much fun though.
I love it.
So the thing Cyrilla is bringing up that Galulja is more like Vivi than Zidane. I agree, and if that's the case, that would definitely place Galulja as an artificial being from going from 9 Parallels.
I think maybe it would
They
change...
both were though.
Yeah,
Yes.
because they're both clones. The difference in intent is that, like, the black mages, like Vivi, were solely to be, like, temporary weapons that lived and died when their use was up, versus the actual solution to having, like, cloned bodies that were stable.
Which is actually how
which is
Zoralja
not
treats
consent.
him, actually.
Right, yeah, so I wonder if it's, like, a difference in perspective where the experiment was just not viable on a long-term basis. But it depends on the context of how Zoralja viewed his son, whether or not he was a tool or someone he genuinely cared for.
Which was very bizarre because the game seemed almost like he seemed surprised. At first I was like, did someone take his
Right.
memories? But then he was talking like he did remember him, and it was just like, can I get some clarity here? Anyway,
did
we're
he actually
getting ahead of
remember it?
ourselves, but
Yeah.
I don't freaking know. It's confusing, and I would like to understand. Like, maybe I just missed something.
Maybe Zeralja just literally doesn't fuck.
Well, I mean,
refuse to
so-
accept that for no reason in particular.
So here's the thing: the blessed siblings are supposed to be sterile,
Yeah.
and as
He's not technically a blessed sibling.
He's
it's
not.
just weird.
but he is a Mumalja who God, not a Bunawa, but he's got Bunawa skin, but he's
And
Who we go?
who we go?
He's
Yeah,
got
so
the
here we go.
scales of the other.
yeah. So he kind of is a blessed sibling, but not. He just lacks the second head. He's just another genetic anomaly.
He's a blessed sibling instead of a blessed siblings.
I
Right,
feel like
exactly.
it's too soon to be getting into this, but I wonder if this is like what the blessed siblings are supposed to be. Because two heads on one body isn't great. This is the thing that happens in nature with snakes, actually, somewhat frequently.
Yes,
But what
yes,
happens a lot of times is the one head will try to eat the other, and that's not good for the organism, obviously. Because it's just a basic creature with basic instincts, and they're like, "Oh, a threat for my food," even though their stomachs are joined. They don't understand
Oh.
that. But Cool Jaja understands better. However, like to have those two things blended into a seamless whole, I was like, "This is good," and he was like, "This is bad. I should have two heads."
What
Like,
if?
huh?
Okay, this is very tinfoil hat, but what if the meteors are giving radiation and that's why sometimes they have
Huh.
two heads, but most of the time they die?
That's
you
kind of
mean,
wild.
Like, that's why half the wildlife looks like Valhazak from Monster Hunter.
Yeah, yeah.
We have lots of questions about Mamulja physiology for no reason
Yeah.
in particular right now. They were like, here is this cool concept, and we're like, okay, are you going to answer
Details.
any questions about it?
Yes.
And like the meteors are affecting like the wildlife and all this other shit, so it would stand to reason that the meteors are affecting like the people living there too, you know?
They
So,
go out of
yeah.
their way to point them
Does
out.
make
They just
sense.
Don't
Yeah.
expand on it that much.
So-
So I wonder if we'll see more of it.
So,
This meteors refuses to expound leaves.
if you, Cobron and I kind of have an answer for this. Go
Mhm.
ahead, though.
Well, go on.
No, Ayumi.
Why me? No, you
You
were
brought
the
it
one
up.
gushing out. You were the one gushing over this. So, in the Gathering quests, and this is something I did not expect. The Gathering quests kind of early on, if you're doing botany or mining, they give you a lot of Vieira lore. They kind of go over what the Scate Range is, which is an area to the north of Dalmasca. It encompasses the mountain range to the south of the Burn. And you get to learn about the Paleskin Vieira.
Davina.
They kind of go, yes, the Vina. They kind of go over that in bigger detail and about the Vieira lore in Tugyolo. And then it kind of goes into the backstory of the person who you're getting the quest from, and you find out that his village was destroyed by meteorites, and that we would like to kind of go into why or what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So he has us go out and kind of look for these meteors or kind of get a sample from them. Cobra, I'm gonna pass this off to you because you explored this more than I did.
So we go out to the meteors. There is a weird kind of ether emanating from them. So, like, as you said, a kind of radiation. But we see it infused everywhere. So the lower area of Yaktel actually used to be the same level, but the meteors caused it to collapse down, and that's the area that we currently have. And it infused everything with this weird aether. And we see it in the Gathering Quest. They focus on these blue crystals that fall into the water that look like teardrops because they rain from the sky. And it's just crystallized ether that couldn't go back into the life stream. And it kind of blew my mind when it was like, oh, so aether crystallizes when it can't go back into the life stream. Got it. Very
That's why
fun.
battlefields sometimes have a lot of extra ambient ether.
But it also very much reminded me of 13. I was waiting for mouth to jump.
Oh, yep,
Where,
yeah.
you know, here's a reason, you know, this crystallization happens that's rooted in actual, like, science of the game instead of the gods did it. But it was really interesting to kind of see, you know, when they're talking about these meteors, it just kept coming back to where did they come from? Why are they here? Why are they specifically in this area, and why did Ultima send them?
Yeah, the glowing blue
Oh, and-
stuff did make me think of like 16 Ultima.
Well,
And,
didn't it,
who was it?
Also, it was Tiuna. I think you and I are thinking the same thing.
Mhm.
The first with Tiuna and the
Yep.
meteors.
Right.
It's also something that they explore very much in Final Fantasy 11 and 12 to a certain extent. The whole Nethicite thing comes from a certain part of 11
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to crystals and ambient ether and what happens to souls when they can't go back to the life stream. So it is a theme that we've seen in so many other Final Fantasy games. So it's fun to explore that part of it here as well. It also does not help all of the Ultima brainworms when it's
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
crystal that comes from space and deals with souls.
Yeah.
I
And,
also
Also
wanted to touch on.
interesting-
Really quick. I wanted to
ahead.
touch on. Someone brought up something a while back in the text about corrupted crystals and how one was brought up in. I think it was an Ether Current side quest. So that's. I'm curious to see where we go with that too.
Oh yeah, the Orsite shit.
yeah. So someone brought it up in the
Yeah.
chat. There, I was waiting for Orsite comments. There is so much to go into about
Yeah.
Orsite in this expansion. There is so much pointing to Ultima, and we've been talking about Ultima in the months leading up to this expansion for I don't know how many months now.
Is it time to bring out my flowcharts?
I also have many diagrams.
Just shuffling papers in the background.
All of us ready.
Yeah, right. Oof.
One thing I do want to say real quick before you move on, though, is the whole ether crystallizing if it can't return to the live stream thing has interesting implications when looking at the wall of crystallized light on the first.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't it go back to the live stream?
Well, you see,
Well,
when
Minfilia
Philia
froze it.
stopped it,
Yeah.
which also has interesting implications.
Yeah.
Mm.
You gotta let me do my presentation on this at some point.
Yes.
Please. I have so many answers.
Oh my god, please. If you want to skim it just now and we can go into it in the next episode along with Meow's flowcharts.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
just
going to be
the
an
whole-
episode of itself.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like a whole soul science episode because a lot of
Amazing.
basically a lot of this expansion essentially confirmed the theories I've been working on for the past year and a half. But essentially, Ultima is a type of energy, not Dynamis, it's not ether, but a third thing. that
Oh my
deals
god.
it deals directly with souls. So when you're talking about Ultima and crystals, everything is essentially Aurosite, because that is a type of crystal that deals with souls as fuel, souls as memory. It is a type of thing that we cannot fully comprehend because it is outside ether, which is our basis, like thermodynamics. This was the thing that made you and I friends. Was
Oh
talking
my
about
god. Yes, and
thermodynamics.
it's so funny because I've been raving about this in the Discord,
Yes.
where we have that third form of energy that's still 23% of the universe. We don't know what it is.
It is Ultima energy.
And that's what I was that's what I came to
right.
as well.
It's one of those things. The key part of this is that we know that Hydaelyn and Zodiark are not primals. They're something else, because primals, by nature being flawed creation magics, the ether component of the summoning is substituted with Dynamis. It's what creates the emotional ties, tempering. It's a positive feedback loop of energy, right? When it comes to Sin Eaters, it's not a Dynamis reaction because Hydaelyn isn't a primal. It is a soul reaction because they are fundamentally becoming something else. And when they become something else, they can't necessarily return to the life stream. So what is left is crystal. So those giant crystal walls are like a byproduct of a soul reaction and light flooding and everything. There's a whole bunch of shit there. Again, there's a reason I have like diagrams and shit.
Welcome
but
to
that's very
Fabula
much where
Nova
it's coming from.
Crystallis.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am aware. But that is essentially where it's coming from. And there's like fun little tidbits in it as well that very much make Shadowbringers so much more heartbreaking somehow. After
Oh,
the fact
yes.
again.
Cobb, do you remember in your video, if I think it was the first video about 13 and 14, when you compared Sin Eaters with the Sith?
Yeah, yeah. Which is soul shit.
I love soul shit. I love soul shit.
Hurry up and play 13.
I know. I'm getting there.
Oh yes. No, I just gotta be a smartass.
So if you want, because this is not something that the game would ever tell you, so I can give you a quick rundown of what a Sith is. Basically, or rather, what makes a person go Sith.
And we actually see Sith in Dawntrail, which is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, I missed it.
I freaked out really when
They're in Alexandria.
Because, yeah.
And the last time we saw one was in the Twinning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So to give NES a quick rundown, when basically Sith are lessee, basically branded people by a focus by the mechanical gods, so to speak, the fal'Cie. They are given a fate and a brand, and a part of their soul crystallizes, allowing them to use magic. You have like a time window to carry out this fate, which varies depending on the kind of fate assigned to you. And if you achieve it, then you become you enter crystal stasis. You become a crystal and basically dream for eternity in a sort of eternal existence. And if you don't, then your soul will burst from the inside out, cover your body in crystals, and leave you a Sith. So yeah, it's and also basically destroying your soul, meaning you're only left with the emotions, basically rage and pain. So that's how a Sith. That's what a Sith is, and it's fucked
I
up.
like this. Yeah, I love this kind of story. I can't wait to play 13. I'm just gonna at all of you when I start, be like, hey!
Yes, please. Wait,
time.
there is so much soul shit in 13, and it goes together so well with everything they've included with 9 and 11. It's just what they've created is this abomination of soul goo that I'm. Oh god, this is gonna be great. And I sent you what I wrote a few days ago, and I was just like, I want that third energy. Ever since they introduced Dynamis, I'm like, okay, what's the other one?
It's been here the whole time.
Yeah. Oh my god. I love it. I love it. I love this group.
I
Y'all
love
are
being
awesome.
insane with other people instead of being told
Same.
to be
Instead of being
more
told to
about the
shut
lore.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, okay, all right, they believe me, but
Yeah.
it's fun to engage. I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
Most times people just ignore me, so there's that.
Yeah, we get that a lot. But how many times do we have to be right until before people start listening?
They will listen.
I'm still waiting on my one theory from like, what is it, 4 or 5 years ago?
Oh,
Please
that
don't.
reminds me, one of my most exciting things about this expansion was having my soul as a kernel with like power accreted around it thing vindicated, because that's our soul and our life energy. And I was like, that's what I thought. I thought that is what I was seeing.
Yeah,
so
we
I
actually
was
get a
very excited about
visual
that.
of what an incorporated
Yeah.
soul looks like.
It was super cool.
Oof. God, there's so much. I'm so excited though. I think more than what this expansion did is the doors that this expansion opened and the possibilities that we now have on the table because of this expansion. And I think that's what excites me
The
more
key
than anything.
handed.
And people
Oh,
are
yeah, it was
I-
the
and
lunar
lots,
cry.
lots
That's
of-
my lunar cry theory.
We're not
Lots
going to
of-
talk about the key today.
lots of people are missing the implications because they don't recognize Final Fantasy 13 lore.
Well,
and
they're also
visuals.
missing all the 12 stuff.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot. People
Yeah,
are so
yeah.
fixated on 9 that they're missing everything else, and there is a lot
They're
more
missing.
than 9.
They're
I haven't
missing.
gotten past a surface
they're-
level read.
Yeah, they're missing 11. They're missing 12, and they're missing 13.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
evil
what's
East
really
and
funny to me
tactics.
is how many people think that this was a self-contained story and didn't set up literally anything going forward for the
That's
future.
insane to me.
That just, I can't even comprehend
Yeah, that's bizarre.
that.
Yep. There's a lot of things, and I kind of went over this earlier, that there was a lot of dialogue that needed to be read instead of listened to, and I think that's the problem, kind of with. And I hate calling the community out on this. I really do, but it's true. A lot of the community tends to listen to dialogue instead of reading dialogue. It's not. And it's an issue that we find elsewhere too. It's not just in this game, but elsewhere.
Mhm.
Oh
It's
yeah.
the more you read, the less likely your attention span is going to keep with it.
And one of the things too that people just blatantly admitted on social media for this expansion is that if a cutscene isn't voiced, they assume it's not important, so they actually just skip it.
Wow.
Yes.
And they only listen
Unfortunate.
to the voiced ones. And it's one of the
Well,
reasons.
of course
I
it was a
have-
confusing expansion.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
half of it.
Yeah, like it's one of the reasons I have as many complaints as I do with Square not investing in just voicing everything, because I think it would just be better for everyone if all of the MSQ was voiced.
I believe it comes down to like cost and like processing and
And
dev.
Square and basically Square Enix not having to take care of not read
Illiterate,
fan
yep.
base.
Illiterate,
Yeah.
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 I will also say that they said our name a lot in these cutscenes, and every time there's a cutscene where they say your character's name, it will not
They
be
can't
voiced.
voice it.
Yep, exactly.
I feel like they can just handle that the way that Hoyo and Wuthering Waves both handle
Yeah.
like
The Warrior of
They
Light.
do that in
they-
World of Warcraft too. They call you champion or hero.
Right.
yeah.
It can become intrusive, but I mean, it might be better than the alternative. So it's like it's a balance to walk.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes they do have our character be addressed in cutscenes in 14, and usually they just address us as friend or something else that's like applicable for the moment.
Or they just look at you and you can use
Yeah.
context clues.
Yeah.
Context clues? Who gets those?
Again, that kind of goes back to the reading thing. You have to
Right.
kind of look at the text box and understand it. But again, that's a
So
little
wait,
too
if you're
difficult.
staring at your phone and half listening, you're gonna be confused?
Except when you're staring at your phone, images are moving.
It's like paying attention leads to understanding things.
My God.
Reading is not comprehensive in 2024, I guess.
It's
I
just
can
there's so many
confirm that.
drags on people's attention now. Everything wants to grab your eyes, and I think it's a major detriment to our mental health. I don't think it's good for us, and it sure makes it hard to like focus on things.
And
I hate calling
genuinely
people
not
out
just
on this.
that, but coming from
I don't
like,
blame people. I
writing
blame the
books,
advertisers.
There's a huge issue like beyond social media and everything as far as reading and reading comprehension goes.
Yes.
Because as authors at this point in time, for the past about 10 years, we've been told to write our books at about 3rd grade reading level.
Jesus.
because
Yeah,
that's,
it's
like, the
disturbing to me.
average. Yeah.
They
it's
told you that?
really bad. Yeah.
I
yeah.
keep getting told to dumb mine down, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna keep writing fanfics so that people don't tell me to dumb my writing down.
Yeah, I've been told repeatedly to, at minimum, lower mine.
It's
to
too
about 8th
complicated.
grade. Yeah.
That sucks. I'm so sorry you're getting that. kind
Yeah,
of
that's
feedback.
horrible.
Well, it's indicative of the market and of
Yeah.
the people as a whole. It's not good. Education's important. We should be doing that.
And I will say there is like trackable trends of if your books are more complicated, you're usually selling outside of the US more than you are within.
And I want to
Wow.
be clear. I don't blame kids these days don't read. I think a lot of it is
Yeah.
social media and like these sites that really promote short videos and everything is pushing further and further that way because they can grab attention more easily.
Yeah.
That's crazy. and sad.
Yeah, it's genuinely really bad.
Like if I take a young kid to a buffet and there's a bunch of sweets and candy and a bunch of like healthy food and they go for the sweets and candy, I'm not really gonna blame the kid for that.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
I do hope though that the developers realize that the backlash Dawntrail is getting is not their fault, but the fact
do
that
hope so, yeah.
the
Same.
fan base is stupid, basically.
I don't
People
know.
aren't paying enough attention. People are making assumptions that don't make sense, and people are, just need to go a little slower and think a little more.
I think it's also important to keep in mind that negative feedback is always louder than positive feedback, because there's also
Yes.
been
True.
an overwhelming amount of positivity, and like there is also something to be said for a national demographic being the louder complainers on social media, at least, and that kind of feedback is just not happening.
Yeah, social media often works as an echo chamber, so it's not representative of real life. Despite
I
how
am
much
worried,
people want
though.
to believe that it's actually
I-
real
Yep.
life, that's social media. No,
I think,
no,
Arden, you're
it's
about to
not.
address what I'm going to address, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm worried that Square's still going to take it into account because we've seen how the Hoshifont, death
Yeah.
pushback affected the Square's storytelling going forward.
I'm
You
glad
cannot
that-
comprehend. You cannot compromise your artistic vision, people.
So, yes,
The
but
Baldur's Gate did this made me crazy.
the issue I have is that Yoshi-P came out and said that based on feedback, they're going to make adjustments to the story going forward. And so seeing all this negative feedback makes me really concerned because the story they have right now is solid. They need to stick with this.
Yeah, stay the course.
Yeah. Like this is the
I
story
believe-
I didn't know I wanted.
This could so. Cobb,
I believe when people complain, they're speaking to something that's missing, but you shouldn't give them what they want. You should listen to their complaint and figure out what they actually need or want. Because people don't know what they want. We don't.
That's true.
We think we do, we get it, and we're disappointed.
Mouth go.
Cobb, so no, you said that Yoshi-P said they were going to make adjustments to the story, which could be concerning, but could also mean, for example, like I said before, with Dawntrail's type of narrative, which was very meta-narrative, and it's not something most people are know how to read, which is understandable. It doesn't excuse them for not reading the text boxes, but I understand if people are not so familiar with meta-narrative, because admittedly it took me a few years to actually get acquainted with that back when 13 and especially Line Returns. Cobb and Neela know what I'm talking about. It's not easy to read.
I think it's
True.
also important to note that Yoshi-P's quote there is very much about using real world cultures
Mhm.
and stuff as well. It is very much, hey, we're going to do better as far as respecting
aside
our
from
draws.
aside from that, but I think his comment on how of making addressing certain parts of the storyline could also mean that they're going to make the storyline and the references and the story they're trying to tell less meta-narrative and more direct if the fan base is having so much trouble reading into it, because I can read that. I trust that all of you also can read the parallels on the story, the story beyond what's immediately happening in front of you. We can read that
Between
because
the lines,
we're-
yeah.
because we're lore divers, and we all have this familiarity with seeing beyond what's in front of us, but not everyone has to. I mean, not everyone.
And it takes
can, not
training
everyone
and
has
practice.
to.
It
It
does.
does. So if they do want to adjust the storytelling, I can see it as a positive way. I mean, I personally wouldn't have problems reading between the lines, but for the major fan base, it would be beneficial if they take a more direct approach as to, hey, this is what we are trying to tell you, and if we have to make it clearer for you, then we will. Because perhaps the next continuation of Dawntrail was going to keep somewhat subdued the narrative in this level, assuming that perhaps the fanbase would notice. It did not, so I would understand if they wanted to make it clearer in that aspect.
Yeah,
Because
that would be
really-
fine.
And I will
Because-
say
Yeah.
I will say that something Dawntrail does that a lot of expansions have not done is there is a lot of reading between the lines. There is a lot of subtext. I don't think there's been an expansion before where so many people have not gotten what's going on.
Yeah,
You-
I agree
and,
with that.
And
You was-
I would say that it kind of is beneficial to the lore community, because now, here's what's going on. We have an opportunity
Y'all
to
need us
explain
now.
it, but it I don't want to say that because so many people aren't getting it, that it's not something that they're doing wrong. It's that the way it's being delivered in game is not well done. But that is what I'm saying. Like, it means the writing needs to be tighter as far as how they're delivering things. And
I think that was a big theme this time, because the writing was good, but it needed to be tighter in a lot of places.
Correct. And it's something that I'm very confident that they're going to explain later in upcoming patches. But
Yeah.
for now, people are coming away with a very different impression than what is actually going on.
It's also worth noting that, like, while we are engaging with this where it wants to be met, regardless of how anybody feels about quality of something, the team also has to think about marketability, because for
Correct.
them, this
Yep.
is also kind of a numbers game, because games
Yeah,
make money, and
it's-
money is what means they can keep making good games.
it's inevitably tied. So
Yeah.
when you're basically on the video game sphere, you have to think more like on a pragmatic, if you will, materialistic way, and it's inevitable. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
That's so yeah. Oh, but also on that note about in never have another expansion in which people didn't get the so to a degree, yes, but you would be surprised at how many people don't realize that Shadowbringers storyline, or at least the arcs of each one of the areas, is actually telling you the story of the Asians.
Yep.
So it's not something that they haven't done before, especially Shadowbringers, which is heavily modeled after Line Returns. But in Shadowbringers, again, Shadowbringers is like the lightning in a bottle expansion that they shouldn't try to beat or surpass.
That's what I said. It was that
Which-
bar that they set so high
Mhm.
that was reminiscent to
Mhm.
me of when WoW hit like that Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King,
Yeah.
where it was just unchallenged by any other MMO out there. It was so good that nothing else could come close to it. Everyone played it. Everyone knew what it was. There
Yeah.
was no contest.
And just briefly touching on the final dungeon, it was a little bit. It felt very much like they were trying to recapture that and didn't quite get it.
It's the concept is different though. It's like
The concept's different, but the execution is identical.
yeah.
So because of that, it felt very much
Yes.
like they were saying, well, this worked before, let's try and do it again. And it didn't have the impact that Shadowbringers did. And because of that, it was kind of like, this is a cool thing, but it didn't hit me emotionally the way that Amarod did.
They spent so much of this expansion starting new things and executing new things very, very well. So to have that kind of callback, it's like, oh, I was expecting something new with emotional
True.
impact, and it was more of a self-reference, which, again, like, it is intentional. It's the downfall of a civilization. And
Right.
it did have impact, but it didn't have the same impact because it wasn't following through on the pattern of, hey, we're doing something new now.
Right.
The last part was-
Shadowbringers was the culmination of 3 expansions. You can't
Right.
do that in the
no.
In
span
one.
of one game.
Right.
But the last zone is basically a recall, not exactly a recall. It's heavily Shadowbringers relevant, but not in. But if people are calling Dawntrail a rehash of Shadowbringers, that's wrong. It's the last zone, without going too much into it right now. It's meant to evoke Amarot and the Ancients, but it's twisted, it's wrong, it's an abomination.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
is.
point. It's basically spitting on the Ancients and
Yes.
and on Emmet Sulk, basically in particular.
Yeah, I
Hard
wouldn't
agree,
say.
Meowth.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's a rehash of Shadowbringers, but I absolutely agree. And we had this conversation when I was running through it. It's like this is abhorrent. Like they would have absolutely railed against this. This goes against everything they believed in.
And see, I found some of that to be actually fuel for you guys' view on this, though we should not get into the which shard is it today, I don't think.
No,
no.
not today.
No.
Not
The
today.
second half will be going into
If
a
it's
different.
gone and calamitous, then they had to recreate the live stream.
I
I'm
agree.
just thinking here.
I agree. And you know, Yumi and I, we will die on this hill. But we're not going to get into that today.
Same.
So
We're almost evenly split. This is going to be so much fun, you
oh,
guys.
it's gonna be great. It's
Yeah.
gonna be great. I was analyzing the skybox at 2 in the morning today. So
You and me both.
yeah, because that skybox is wrong. So anyway,
Yeah, I'm
So-
flying around there right now.
yeah, just look up. It's very interesting. So anyway, is there anything else we want to add? Because next time we're going to go into crossing the bridge, going into Shalamani, and the second half of the story.
No, I pretty much kind of gave my thoughts in the first half. Like I said, it was good setting up the kind of active cultures of Tyrell and kind of meeting them and getting to know them and who we would kind of be interacting with for the remainder of the expansion, possibly. I
Mhm.
don't think that we're going to go back to Eorzea and be like, let's chill in Ishgard or let's chill in Gridania for the remainder
Right.
of our time. I think we are going to stay in Tyrell for a very long time.
Yeah, I agree.
While I agree, I am side-eyeing the 11 Alliance raid and the Blind
Yes.
Frost quite heavily.
Blind Frost is interesting to me because it's directly north of the Zim steppe.
What I
yeah.
don't want to happen is the same thing that happened with Endwalker, where we get an expansion's worth of content in 5 patches.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Don't remember. I mean, 5 patches. That the best thing actually came from the patches. Though I do have to revisit the Void Art though, because right now I actually gloss over much of it, and there may be hidden gems inside that. But I remain. I am convinced that the best thing of the patches to came was Pandemonium, and that it wasn't an epilogue to Endwalker, but it was the prologue.
That
It
was
absolutely
the
was.
best thing.
Mhm.
But as for MSQ, that was not very well executed.
Mhm.
It was a direct love letter and almost direct parallel to Final Fantasy IV.
Mm-hmm.
And although those kinds of things, those kinds of cameos, those kinds of references are nice, they shouldn't be kind of thrown in your face like that.
It felt like it should have been a trial series, is how I like to talk about it.
I agree.
Because it would have been way more contained, and I
do
think
agree.
condensing the story would have made it a little bit more impactful. Because we're not sitting there spending a whole patch on, the same thing.
Oh my god. Sometimes it felt like the patch was just filler because we didn't
Yeah.
really do anything. We didn't really go anywhere. We went off and explored an area, came back, talked some, and then it ended.
So my issue with it is this game has always been very, very good at taking stories from different Final Fantasy games and weaving them together into something new. Dawntrail is a perfect
Yes.
example of that.
Yep.
And it does it masterfully. The issue I had with the Endwalker patches was it was just, here's
Yeah.
Final Fantasy IV. And it was beat for beat. This is just Final Fantasy IV. And I get it. I love Final Fantasy IV. But there was nothing new about it. There was nothing original about it. It was just kind of a little bit of a twist to apply it to the 13th and the Memoriates. And for me, that's really why it fell flat. It was just, I've seen this before. I've already done this. Why are you making me do this again?
And it did give us lore on the 13th. It did give us kind of backstory on the Contra Memoria. what all Igiorum did to cause a flood on the 13th using aura sight, which that was interesting in itself. But again, the forefront of the story, the main focus was Zero and Golbez and their struggle, and that beat for beat, like you said, was totally Final Fantasy IV. It didn't elaborate on the background of the 13th. It didn't elaborate on what we need to do, what the steps taken are going to be to restore the 13th. It was, here's a nice little jaunt through the 13th, here's an area you get to explore, here's the people, and we're dipping out.
Yep.
Yeah, and the thing, without going into too much into second act, Dawntrail is an example of how to make a reference, but not make the only. So basically, Alexandria is basically playing a bit into the Japanese style of Dawntrail, Gilded Legacy. I would say 9 is the gilding of Alexandria, of course, but Alexandria, of course, they went for they went to the trouble of modeling old Alexandria, which was nice to see, of course. But Alexandria as a concept, as design, as everything, is basically it's all Fabula Nova Crystal.
Yeah.
It's 13 and it's the 3 games of 13 and Type 0, and
yeah.
And so that basically Dawntrail is, I'm suspecting. So Yoshi P mentioned that they had 3 expansions for this story arc, and I kind of speculated on 4, but now I do have to revisit my drive, because if they are actually going to 3 expansions, and this one is basically, and we're going into Fabula Nova Crystallis, it's a trilogy, and they were not settled with 13.2 in this expansion in Dawntrail. There's a lot
Not
of
at
Fabula
all.
Nova Crystallis, but 13.2 is the one that's in Dawntrail the most.
Yeah.
To degrees that you wouldn't believe.
And I remember putting in that video that I made about 13.2, I was like, there's not a lot of 13.2 in 14 yet. And here it is. And it's like you said, it's not subtle. There is so much 13.2 in this. And if you haven't played it, you're going to miss all of it. And you're not going to understand what's going on, because there's a lot that 13.2 tells you. And it's basically handing you the answer in the game. And if you haven't played it, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. And so that my suspicion, and I know that I'm going to get the looks, but okay. My suspicion is that the 3 expansions, if they go for the 3 expansions for this arc, each one is going to be focused on one game of the trilogy with Type 0's overarching. And this is my throwaway conclusion, and I could be wrong, of course, but if there's one thing I'm confident of in my life, is my knowledge of Fabula Nova Crystal. So forgive me for the flex, but so I was saying, like, I don't know if I told this to Cobb at some point, maybe during his
I'm
streams,
sure you did.
maybe DM, but whatever. But I was like, they're basically relying on most of the fan base not knowledge of Fabula Nova Crystallis. But I tell you, Cobb, if they are going into Fabula Nova Crystallis, there's not much they're going to be able to hide from me.
So I just want to say, I do think they're drawing a lot from Fabula Nova Crystallis, but I would caution against speculating that 14 is part of Fabula Nova Crystallis.
No, of course not. They're going to weave it into 14. That's what they're going to do.
Right.
But if they're taking elements and part of the storyline into it, I will be able to recognize it. I know where that. I know this. I know the threads, the story threads and the lore threads.
Right.
So So
I
yeah,
would say 14 is more of like a melting pot of all the Final Fantasies.
yes,
They don't
yes.
try to kind of directly tie things in. They kind of more or less like, oh, here's an area inspired by this game. Oh, here's a few characters inspired by this game. They don't kind of directly like, oh, here's a direct sequel to this game. You know,
My guessing you know that they usually mix two titles. There's like minor mixing here and there in its expansion, but they usually tend to mix two main titles, one that's like the face of it and one that's like the underlying part of it. In this case was 9 and then was 13 too. I don't know what may be if they go for a 13 proper expansion. I don't know what may be the underlying one. I've been theorizing on Final Fantasy 2 for a number of reasons, but I don't really want to go without proof into that. But I'm fairly sure that if they go for a line returns, one the basis of the it will be heavily supported by Final Fantasy 16, which all in all is creative unit business unit 3's baby. So of course inevitably they're going to base a lot of stuff on but they're going to take it into 14. It's their work. So yeah. And as an aside, 16 is basically a rehash of the 13 trilogy. So there's
Jeez.
no, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I swear.
I know.
I had my fellow veterans of 13 go through the game and be like, this is not subtle. This is basically what happens when you mix 14 and 13 so yeah.
And I will say, and ever since I've played 13, I've realized this, that the foundations of 14 are based in 13. The way ethereal mechanics works, the way that the world is shaped on a macro level is very much based in 13. So it's kind of interesting now to see that step out of, okay, this is a setting, now here are the actual elements of story that are making their way into the actual core of 14. Wildflower. There's
a bit of very bit, but still a bit present of 10 in there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of 10. There's a little bit of 8. So Wildflower's asking. So there's Final Fantasy 9, 13, and the other Final Fantasies I should know about, so I don't seek out knowledge. 11. Yeah, 11's the other big one.
11.
Yeah,
11 is everywhere though.
Yeah, 11 is everywhere, but specifically in this expansion, they're directly quoting one of the main characters in 11 in regards to the whole story. Pretty much everything leading up to Solution 9 is directly Rise of Zealart. And I know y'all keep mentioning 13. There's a place that 13 got a lot of those narrative elements too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's though this is not so easily noticed, but there's also a fair share of 12 Final Fantasy 12 in
a lot of
Dawntrail.
12. Like I don't want to say a fair share. I want to say there's a metric ton of 12. But it's all build up. It's all set up for that.
Yeah.
So it's not something that is immediately in the plot right now. It's something that they're building towards, and there's a lot of groundwork for 12 being laid.
12 may well. I mean, we know we usually dismiss 12 as have already happened in Stormblood. Stormblood never did touch much on actually 12 lore.
Mm-hmm.
They referenced certain aspects of 12 in Stormblood. Yes, they did, and they actually and Stormblood is where we got the Ivalice raids, which I am expecting at any moment to become mandatory. But
I mean, they already are for Pandemonium, but I think they're going to become mandatory for MSQ like Crystal Tower was. I've always said, and I continue to say, there is no side content in Final Fantasy XIV.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of maybe guessing that 12 may be important in the second expansion to come, and Tactics will be the final one, proper Ivalice, like going into the roots of Ivalice. Even though chronologically speaking, 12 is the root of Ivalice, but still.
Yeah, and Wildfire Type 0 as well is featured
Type 0
very
is
heavily.
Type 0 is, I'm fairly sure,
I
is
need
going
to play
become
that one.
the overarching, Type 0 is sure. I'm kind of convinced that it's going to be the overarching game of Fabula Nova Crystallis of this coming arc. It's not just going to be one time, but I can't really go into Type 0 right now because Kov has not played it. So
Well,
I
I've
don't
played
want
it.
to
I
spoil
haven't
him.
finished it.
But yeah.
I'm about halfway through it. I need to finish streaming it. Now I have plenty of motivation to do so. So I'm going to be starting that up again.
All the motivation.
If anyone is going to, addressing the chat, if anyone is planning to play the 13 trilogy, for the last game in particular, you're going to need certain lore stuff that's not in game because stupid localization.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They don't mean it until Lightning Returns. Yeah. There's a localization error at the end of Lightning Returns that gives the incorrect context for a lot of things.
And it's just one thing. They did the rest of the game well, but it's just one thing that screws up with the rest of the deep implications of that. I really hope that if we get a remaster of the trilogy, they address this. Because
the question is, what's the error? The error is what happened to a certain character.
And the implications with a major one. I mean, both are major characters, to be fair. But
Very spoily.
Yeah,
very
extremely.
spoiler, yeah.
But it basically changes what happened to a character and completely derails the motivations of another character.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, I brought this up the other day, yesterday, I think, on that Land Returns was the first game proper. I mean, there was the precedent of Emperor Matthews in 2, I suppose, but it's a different splitting of souls. So I wouldn't call it sundering, but the first character that I think, if 11 doesn't blindside me, I think the first character that I actually experienced a sundering of the soul proper as we understand it, it was Slime Returns.
No, it was 11.
It is
Okay.
11.
Okay, then
yeah,
11 blindsided me.
11 is very interesting because and I could go into this for a while, and I know we're kind of nearing the end of time here. But 11 treats like the Sundering of Souls as a natural form of evolution into mortality. And a whole kind of plot point for like the first arc of it is why that happened and how they could go about fixing it. Which probably something we should talk about when we get to the second half of it. But it was very much dealing with once being an immortal being, once being as gods. That's the whole quote about living memory the first time you hear about it. It is directly taken from a speech in 11 about wanting to return to that state of immortality that just isn't feasible anymore because it's just not how life progressed.
Which is also very reminiscent of the ancient world in Amarok.
Correct. Yeah, they took some of it from there, but like the essence of it with the Zeal art is exactly what we got with Living Memory here.
Right.
It's a perversion of what once was instead of an actual return to it, and that's like kind of the tragic part of the story. So I was stoked to see that kind of revisited in a way that many more people will experience than going through what is largely considered to be one of the harder expansions in 11 to finish, even like on top of the difficulty of playing the game in the first place.
Yeah, in this case, the difference being that in 11, as far as I understand, of course, the sundering of souls is a natural thing, and in 14 is an artificial thing, considered in fact an aberration by
Right.
the ancients themselves, which is I think it's a distinct, it's an important difference to make there.
Right, which is why they use that storyline in this expansion when we're talking about the natural evolution of sundered souls. They die. They are not immortal. They return to the life stream. And so in an attempt to return to that, they have perverted it. And it's, like we talked about earlier, the ancients would find the concept of living memory entirely abhorrent.
Yeah.
Yeah, in part because trying to cheat death, like I found so this kind of this expansion kind of reconciled me a bit with some of my bitter points of Endwalker and the narrative. I know what you're thinking about, but I think Endwalker, the main story of Endwalker, my perception was they did try to justify the sundering, which, by the way, I don't find justifiable in any ways, even though I can respect the intention if you understand what I'm trying to say. But then the patches, especially Myths of the Realm, kept trying to glorify Vanaf for me, and I was like, no, I'm not buying this. You're not going to force down my throat that this was the right thing to do.
It felt very forced to me, yeah. I mean, I'm biased, but...
Aren't we all?
So now, as of Dawntrail, heading into the origin of things, of souls, and the real nature of all that, and maybe raising the point that taking this ideology of moving forward is taken to the extreme may be really, really dangerous to. And I know and the parallels with Fabula Crystallis are concerning here. This kind of reconcile me, as in they were kind of, to me it felt like they're building a high in which we're going to feel, or most of the player base are going to feel comfort in their belief that the Sundering is well, all is good, Heidelin was all good, and it was the right thing to do, and they're going to take that and throw it for a loop, and we're going to suddenly realize, okay, in the long term, on the big scale of this world, of this system of souls, this was a complete mess up,
And it's all our fault.
and it's all our fault.
So does
A lot
anyone
of
else
it's
have
our
any?
fault.
Yeah, that's true. Does anyone have any closing remarks before we end today's cast?
Not really. I think we went over the first half pretty well. The second half, I believe, is, I mean, to most people, is where things kind of ramped up
Mm-hmm.
and kind of came into focus, like where, where people said, okay, where was this the first half of the expansion? I liked this part now. Let's continue with this part. And so, I mean, it's just really perspective. Like, if you didn't enjoy the first half, you obviously enjoyed the second half. If you liked the first half, you may not have enjoyed the second half. And then there's people that enjoyed both halves, like me.
I liked both.
Who-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
like
enjoy both for different reasons. Of course I was screaming throughout the second half, but it doesn't diminish how I enjoyed the first half, as in getting to know the land, getting to know the people, seeing parallels here and there, taking notes of, like, I do have a lot of stuff quoted as foreshadowing. Actually, some of them actually were foreshadowing.
There was a
So-
lot of that.
The one thing I would say in closing remarks would be just, hey, if there was parts of the story you didn't really like, hopefully we've given you a new reason to appreciate them, and if not, well, we'll keep trying.
I like it.
Anyone else?
All right. Well, we are
we
going.
do-
Yeah, we are
I was
going
gonna say,
to.
we do have an announcement to make.
We do.
We do.
Yes, we do.
We do.
It just so happens that 3 of us are going to be at Gateway Fate in October. And so we are more than likely going to have a panel there and be doing a live broadcast. If anyone would like to join us live in person for that, we would be more than happy to welcome you. Yeah.
I also already have a presentation confirmed
Yes.
for Gateway. I am going to be talking about Final Fantasy XI in Final Fantasy XIV, both the overarching stuff prior to this expansion, kind of the small references and where a lot of these elements came from, but also the direct stuff in Dawntrail. So if you want to learn more about the Mamul Jaw, if you want to learn more about the Zealert storyline, if you're just kind of curious about FF11 because it's the least played Final Fantasy game, come check it out. I've got some of the original concept art and developer books somehow that I'll be bringing along. They're very hard to find.
I will definitely
so
be
if
there.
Yeah, if you want to come see some of these like actual museum pieces, I will have that at my presentation as well.
I'm really excited for that, actually.
You're gonna love it.
Oh, I cannot wait. And I need to resub to 11 and keep playing. So.
Yes, you do.
It's the
Yeah.
first time the cast will meet me too. I can't wait.
Yes.
Sad thing I live where I live, where I can't go into any panel and be like, hey, this is Fabula Nova Crystallis for you. Listen and pay attention.
I mean, I could always pick up that banner, but might be a bit
You
much.
couldn't. I mean, I think I trained you well enough, so you can.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, and we will see everyone again next week, same time and same place, and we will discuss the second half of this. I doubt we'll finish because there is a lot to talk about. So.
Yeah, this is where Coven Meowth will go off about the Fabula Nova Crystal.
As if you're not going to go off on the aura side. You mean.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Listen, I'm the evilest guy, so you know.
I love that all of us are clutching a different Final Fantasy game that we're ready to talk about the references
Yeah.
to.
Yes.
I think that's so much fun.
I agree. All right. Thank you for everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week.